All right, well, I'm Andy Pritikin. I run a camp about an hour or so up northwest of here, Liberty Lake Day Camp. I'm involved in a few others. And Eric Wittenberg over here, Camper Machine.
Grew up at a day camp, started at girls only overnight soccer camp, and then now I do marketing automation and stuff. So I was in the exhibit hall, we moved data and things like that. But we're here because that man, Scott Rothschild, endorsed our silly conversation over breakfast in the fall about how much we loved and were just drawn into the bear for how similar it was for our experience starting camps and just running camp. Because Scott said, if you do it, I'll bring Bloody Marys, we're here. Nobody sees Bloody Marys, do they? But nevertheless, just to reiterate something Andy brought up a minute ago, we're going to show 3 minutes worth of clips. There are some curses. Please don't include that in your feedback form. We're trying to look so I'm just kidding. And I don't think we'll spoil the show in any way, but it's all additive. The other thing I will add is that the pace, this is a high anxiety show. Like, my wife had to stop watching because it would make her sweat and she couldn't sleep at night. But if you stick with it, there are really beautiful moments that we'll get through. So with that, Andy, I'm gonna jump.
No, you want to explain the show?
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with a clip here. There's only a couple of things you need to know if you have no reference for The Bear. The Bear is about a guy named Carmi, who's a world-class chef, that his brother passes away, and he comes back, Carmi comes back and takes over the family restaurant with the impossible task of bringing his world-class expectations to a lovable band of losers that he's inherited. So the crew, as we'll affectionately call them, they take over the restaurant called the Original Beef of Chicagoland. And in classic camp-style mode, there's an episode where they're wearing shirts and it says
Burf, because
printing mistake.
Yeah. That was our first clue that it was going to be like camp.
It's exactly like camp. So this is the only prep you're going to get. We're going to start with a 1-minute clip. We're going to walk through without exaggeration, Andy and I spent probably 4 hours talking about these principles and how to boil it down to make it useful to you. Our plan is you'll harvest a nugget. We're not going to force feed you the takeaway, but you'll grab it. We have 4 principles that we're going to share with some examples, do's and don'ts that you could be thinking about to apply to your camp life as a leader. And then
hopefully we get to the 20 honorable mentions.
Yeah, there's a lot of honorable mentions. But if you watch the show, you could probably fill in your own. That's all good. All right, so here we go. Here's our first clip.
Don't wipe your hands on your apron, Chef.
Chef.
Chef. You stir that pot for me, please,
Yes,
Chef.
Chef.
Did you take my knife, Chef?
Did you take my pot, Chef?
Broken saw, Chef. Need a new one.
Yes, Chef.
Still not there again, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
Say yes, chef.
Yes, Chef.
Say yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, Chef. I'm so tough.
Fucking yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, Chef. I'm so tough.
You are not tough. You are bullshit. You are talentless.
Are you good?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
Yes. Okay, Chef. Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
Told her earlier.
Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
Yes, chef.
Great.
Yes, chef.
Oh, yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Good. Yes, Chef.
Yes, chef.
Shitty but better, chef.
Yes, chef.
Heard, Chef.
Yes,
Chef. Chef.
It's right here.
Chef.
You can have
Chef.
a taste.
Chef.
It's right
Hey.
here. Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef.
45 minutes to open, Chef.
Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef. Yes, Chef. Ready to go.
Sorry, Jeff.
That's all right, Louis.
Yes, Chef.
Thank you.
Yes, Chef.
Marcus, if you're still fucking with those donuts right now, I'm gonna fuck your day up. You hear me?
Yes, chef.
Fire everything right fucking now!
Yes, Chef.
Get out of my fucking way. Ibra, make sandwiches. Don't stop making fucking sandwiches.
Yes, chef.
Bag, Sharpie, label that shit, please, Chef.
Yes, chef.
Yes, Chef.
Yes, chef.
We are not good.
What?
We are not good, Chef.
No?
Yeah, Chef.
Yes, chef.
No, Jeff.
Yes, Chef. Chef.
Yes, Chef.
Thank you.
Yes, chef.
Thank you.
Dessert drop.
Yes, chef.
Say it back, please, chefs.
Thank you, Chef. Chef.
Okay, so the first yes chef goes from Carmi to the woman who turns around and she goes, yes, Jeff. And it's the first time that the line cook has ever been referred to as chef. So the first principle...
Don't wipe your hands on your apron, chef. Don't wipe your hands on your apron, chef.
Oh, but the principle is yes, chef. And yes, chef could be a whole hour session just leaning into what this means, but that term Carmi brings, and he makes it so that everyone is spoken to with the same level of respect. That's the biggest thing. And it's not unintentional that Tina, who's the line cook that turns into a sous chef eventually, she goes from yes, Jeff, to saying yes, chef, with tons of gratitude and grace after she's had like whole evolution. We'll get to that later. But the idea that you speak with everyday language to create a vision for who you want people to be is something that we probably haven't done. And by the way, we'll show you the QR code at the end that takes if you want to grab the whole slide deck.
Yeah, I think that is this even working?
No,
Stupid thing?
we'll just pass it.
I think that at our camps, we unintentionally set up a caste system in which the frontline people feel like, peons, right? They feel like no matter what you do, no matter how much respect you try to give them, they just don't feel it, right? And then at my camp, the leadership team walk around with walkie-talkies and collared shirts, and they're just like sort of the elite, right? And it's like, how do you've created this disparate system, right? And in a crazy high, energy restaurant situation, which is, by the way, just like our camps in so many ways. Carmi, who came from a 5-star restaurant kind of training, is trying to instill this kind of equality across the board, which is awesome. Talking about DEIB kind of thing, like that's what he's doing.
So these are some examples of what Yes Chef would look like at a camp. And when Andy and I first brought this up, I didn't realize that he'd already done this. So Andy's bus counselors are not bus counselors. They're not like, you only have authority in the idea there. What you call them?
Bus captains.
Yeah, I call my bus. Did I get that from you guys? Are you guys bus captains? No, we're bus captains because I just think that's better. Because I started a camp from scratch. When you start a camp from scratch, do whatever the hell you want. It's really nice, right? So a lot of my friends call their counselors junior counselors. I just find that so insulting. Junior counselors. They're doing the most important work in your entire camp. You call them junior counselors, for real, right? So I call them counselors. I call the people that run the groups group leaders, right? So I just tried to instill titles across the board for people that gave them a little more respect.
So in a couple of slides, we'll also drop resources, and the one resource that I kept coming back to with Yes Chef that'll make you kind of get a little meta with this is that one of the most influential books that I've ever read in my life is The 3 Laws of Performance by Steve Zaffron. The 3 laws are: how a person performs in a situation is based on how it occurs to them. How a situation occurs is based in language. And the third one, which is for every leader on the planet, future-based language changes how situations occur to people. So when a world-class chef from a Michelin-star restaurant calls someone that's been working in a sandwich shop for 20 years, that's been doing the same job over and over again poorly without any instruction, attention, or care, or education, when he starts calling her chef, a vision is just created, and she ends up living into it. And this happens at camp. We know this to be true. I'm sure you've all seen this. So this is just kind of formalizing some language around it. The other note I want to bring attention to is that if you're involved in sales, anybody do sales? For recruitment, sorry. Camper recruitment and retention? Yeah, it's sales. Essentially what happens in your business is you sell a promise to a parent 10 months before it could potentially happen, if you're lucky, maybe 3 months before it happens. And then someone who maybe is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years younger than you that hasn't had nearly the amount of training as you, delivers on your promise. At every camp in the country. That's what happens. So the people that deliver on your promise, you should be thinking and acting and calling them something like yes director. we gotta move on because this could be. Here's some don't yes chefs. I think you put this in the 73 creative job titles here. This is a negative reference. This is a negative model of corporate creative jobs.
Yeah, so in the, when you get the QR code, if you download these slides, that's a link. So you've seen this kind of thing, right? For these corporations now that try to come up with really cool names, these tech things for the people that recruit people and the people that are in charge of people. Again, I don't see that much in camps, all right? Camps are like stuck in Leave It to Beaver mode for whatever reason.
The other note is that if you put the title like junior counselor, you're basically creating the expectation that someone is not going to surpass junior counselor. So the idea that titles and things would be ceilings and not floors is just an interesting concept. This is another 2 minutes, but
Well, I think, well, just give them a little. So for the people who haven't seen The Bear, all right, I don't want to spoil alert too much, but season 1 takes place very much like that whole first scene, okay, in this like fledgling little like cheesesteak kind of situation. And then season 2, they try to up their game, right, to try to get from like not even good to great, right? And what he tries to do is send his people out to get these kind of real experiences.
That wasn't clean.
I've been doing this for 9 hours. I think I know what's clean.
I'm telling you that's not clean. That was not clean either. Please do them properly.
Yo, they're goddamn forks.
Outside. Do you think this is below you or something?
Man, I think I'm 45 years old polishing forks.
No one is asking you to be here. I don't think anybody remembers your name.
Nice try. You think I don't know how hard it is hiring people since COVID?
We don't have that problem.
You really drink this Kool-Aid, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because I love this, Richie. I love this so much, dude. Did you know that when this restaurant opened 12 years ago, it won the best restaurant in the world the same year? It's retained 3 stars because we have a waiting list that's long. 5,000 people waiting at any given moment long. Do you see their faces when they walk in here? How stoked they are to see us and how stoked we have to be to serve them? It takes 200 people to keep this place in orbit, and at any given moment, one of those people that is waiting in line gets to eat here. They get to spend their time and their money here. I'm sorry, bro, but we need to have some forks without streaks in them. Every day here is the freaking Super Bowl. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid, Richie. I just need you to respect me. I need you to respect the staff, I need you to respect the diners, and I need you to respect yourself.
I can do respect.
Lovely, I'll see you inside.
Who feels like every day's a freaking Super Bowl at your camp? I mean, seriously, right? I mean, that's what you want to try to put forward to your people, right? And we all know, all of our experienced people, we know that the devil's in the details. It really is. It's the little things that matter so much. And it's so hard to teach people this, especially seasonal people, especially new people who come in and don't know what they're even doing, like what camp even is, right? So we have to keep that learning thing going.
So, as you were watching that, you were probably identifying with Garrett. Garrett's the manager that confronts Richie there, who's been, trying to get smudges and streaks off the forks for 5 hours to prep for the night ahead. The principle is create and keep a culture that upholds the highest standards. The reason why this is the perfect clip for camp is that it's not Garrett's restaurant. A lot of people act like Garrett if you own camp. Not as many people act like Garrett because it's been laid out for them how to, without urgency or being an a-hole, uphold high standards. And so being able to pass on that culture of high standards, the way that Garrett did it, is just like the most beautiful thing. There they are again. So some of the do's, the kind of way to like break into how Garrett did that. Did anybody notice, I mean, there's so much you could notice about that interaction, but they're alone in the kitchen. So when Garrett's confronting him and he says, "Step outside," that's a habit of not dressing somebody down and losing your stuff in the kitchen. And so they had the same conversation on the street that they would have had at the table. But he is in a pattern, he's in a culture of, I'll uphold this high standard and I'm not gonna take the piss out of you completely where I expect you to perform your highest. I mean, you could go on for a long time.
And by the way, the next one, respectful, right? The entire time, right?
He is intense, right? And you can tell from the interaction that's not the first time he's had this conversation with somebody about forks. This is a frequent stumbling block. And so when you think about all the ways that attention to detail is important with camp, think about your camp office, think about arrival day, think about the stickers, think about the labels, think about the drives and streets being uncapitalized after registration and it messes up your printing on the first day of camp and you're like, oh gosh. That's the smudge on the fork. There's probably a million things. If you were to watch the show and think about this with your team, you might just think about the smudges on the fork that you care about. And maybe some that you don't. Just to give them up.
It drives me crazy, my smudges in the fork. I have many smudges in the forks. Greg Lick, you must have 10 pages of them. But people that sign their kids up in Camp Minder, right, or fill out applications and don't use capital letters, right? Right? And I know that when we print out the name tags or send an envelope home, right, it's gonna come out like that and we're gonna look bad, right? And it drives me freaking crazy that my office staff doesn't have the same intensity about that I do. Because to me, that's a serious smudge in the fork, right? Well, we didn't do it. That's not the point, right?
That's the difference between Liberty Lake Day Camp and Target. Target sends, screaming, Barry Wasserman thinks home. You shouldn't, right? The other thing about, I just love Garrett's confrontation, is that he obviously drank the Kool-Aid, he's in it. What you don't see in this clip is the preceding clips of the executive chef who is just as hardlined about high standards and does the same exact thing to Garrett. In earlier, in different episodes, you see there's a smudge on a plate and the executive chef loses his stuff because he's upset that they lost 47 seconds worth of prep time because they had to swap out plates. And it's a thing that the whole leadership team discusses it around the table the day after, which is another beautiful lesson for camp around how you deal with these things, not in the moment if you can't fix it in the moment because you're serving plates. So just copy Garrett and think about how you would copy Garrett in your camp and how you'd want someone else to copy Garrett. I mean, like this interaction, I would show this as part of staff orientation or leadership. I mean, you don't even have to convert it to your camp necessarily. You just have them watch and discuss it. The last one I just want to bring special attention to, I think I invented a term with my 11-year-old daughter after a recent debate between her and I. Time to recovery is a phrase that in every relationship is worth discovering. So, an 11-year-old or 13-year-old or 17-year-old rolls their eyes at you. Are you gonna have 3 days of cold shouldering, or are you gonna just get over it and have a time to recover and get back to your life? And so this happens in camp with leadership teams, co-counselors, everyone. And so Garrett goes from absolutely furious and saying stuff outside as soon as Richie says, I can do respect. He's like, okay, great, see you inside. Like, boom! Not only was he ready for it, but he was ready for his response.
Yeah, and it makes it so much easier for Richie, who, for those of you who've seen season 1, is a tough MFer, right? Because of the culture that is built in that restaurant, right? He's seeing everybody is being like that, right? That allows him more permission in his brain, his little childish brain, to be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna give this a whirl, right? And again, just want to reiterate the first thing Eric said. Garrett does not own the place, all right? Garrett is not the CEO. Garrett is not the camp director, okay? Garrett is middle management, and he's pulling that off, right? So that is your goal, is to have your people that really buy in, right? And I go back to a session that was in here yesterday that my son was going up and down the aisle like Phil Donahue, talking about the 25% top people that you have. Those are your Those are your people, right? To make that really happen, you have to support those people, make them feel important and all that kind of thing, so that they can be doing that to those sort of like borderline people who are just doing the bare minimum to get by, right?
I don't want to belabor this. Has everyone read or heard of The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team? Patrick Lencioni, yes, this is like, everybody's heard of this.
Should.
If not, it's kind of one of those business books you can get in the picture of them from the front, but the avoidance of like having to trust people is kind of the macro, the opposite of Garrett. Because holding those high standards is great, but then what happens when you can't sit on top of them? Like, Garrett's not watching Richie, dry off the forks all day. So this whole idea of creating a high standards workplace, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with, people are going to disappoint you.
And what happens at camps most of the time is that camp begins, we have our army, we go to war, and then we just hold on until the end, okay? And you need to have those conversations. Your people need to have those uncomfortable conversations. When I hire middle management people, the first thing I say to them is that we're not even going to talk about this job unless you are someone that is comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. Because that is the most important part of this job. Because you need to have these little come to Jesus moments, right? And in the 5 dysfunctions of the team, when they talk about trust, it's that you can have these conversations and the people that are having it trust that everybody's intentions are in the right place and that you just need reminding and encouragement and that kind of thing, right? But what happens in camp is that you have a Richie, okay, and in the second week of camp, you're like, yeah, he sucks. We'll just get by, let's hide him in a corner and whatever, give him someone stronger in the group and that kind of thing, okay? And nobody even gives this dude a chance who has this hidden potential that we'll talk about later.
I just want to shine this a little bit. A lot of times, the people that are tasked with doing what Garrett did they're not guided on it. And so what happens is you get that wrecking ball number 2, number 3 person that's like, I'm just gonna zip around. I had 3 coffees, I got out the Dunkin' Donuts. And just like jacked up and trying to do everything, and trying to do it all. And what oftentimes, that gets perceived as this person's just like tall weed syndrome, they're getting the attention, they're the brown nose, or they're the golden child. And it's not a system, it's not a culture. That's not something that they can pass off, that they can be adopted. That's a lightly shine saying this is how we want to be.
Well, it's the yes chef thing.
It goes back to the yes chef thing. There's a mutual respect happening, right? Because what happens in the situation he was talking about with the over-caffeinated middle management person that comes in like a wrecking ball is that they're like, I have a collared shirt. Okay, I'm a whatever you call me at your camp and your caste system. Okay, you freaking listen to me. Okay, and that's how it comes off. It doesn't come off as the mutual respect thing.
Oh man,
Love this.
This might hurt a little bit. It hurt. It hurt me just to think about this over and over again. But if you've addressed a cultural shift, anybody tried to shift the culture actively, going to a new camp where you're like, well, this is how we do it at Liberty Lake. This is the principle that you should be, right now you're probably thinking someone else's C- work that you had to correct them on. But if you're open to being uncomfortable, you might want to think about the time when you put forth work that you thought was an A+ and somebody else thought it was an A-. And maybe they didn't even tell you. So that's the range of what you really can embrace with this, is that we've all learned everything from somebody else. So at a certain point, you knew nothing or were underperforming.
So just to clarify, what that means is that you have people in a situation that think they're doing A+ work, and they're not, and they don't realize it because that's just what the norm has been set as, right? And when you start trying to upgrade them, it becomes very sort of personally insulting to them because they have not been told that they're not doing A+ work, right? And in the season 1 of The Beef, in the most unbelievably dysfunctional situation that they are in, that is how it has been. And that has become the norm, right? It's just, how do you break through on that? How do you make that happen?
And so this is, all these sort of principles and ideas kind of mesh together. So one of the principle here is sometimes you can't do an A+ until you see it. And so for all of season 1, Carmi is using everything he's got to pour into people as teacher. But in season 2, he's probably getting burnt out, doesn't have enough time, doesn't have enough energy, starts doing his personal life starts coming together, and now he needs help. And so he sends people out of their orbit, which is a small sandwich shop in Chicago. He sends the promising pastry chef to Denmark. He sends Tina, the line cook who calls him Yes Jeff, they send her to a culinary academy, so she's getting formal training. And they offer, I forget the guy's name, they offer another line cook formal training. And the line cook, the male line cook, he cannot cut it. He cannot learn a new way.
Well, he doesn't have the confidence that he can do it either.
He doesn't think he can, for whatever, there's a million, God, you gotta watch the show, you can't. But the point is, whether this is a trainer coming in during staff orientation, which is probably what you're thinking about, there are other ways to do this. There are other ways to metaphorically send your people to Denmark to learn what it's like with a world-class pastry chef. There are other ways. And so the best illustration of this is Tina's progression. This is her at culinary school. She's wildly nervous. This is Marcus, the pastry chef that gets sent to Denmark. He's getting personal apprenticeship with a world-class pastry chef that Carmi knows. So Carmi's had this verified consultant that he's allowed to speak into Marcus's life. And he's investing in Marcus, so when he comes back, he is on fire. He's coming up with donuts that have never existed. He's doing pitching all sorts of ideas, showing the initiative that you would love to see from some of your people.
One thing I want to say is the local county college near my camp offers free online courses all the time. And my full-time staff are taking them on Microsoft 365, on leadership, on communication, all these kind of things. These things are out there. You have people who want to get better, but sometimes you have to bring the horse to water in order for that to happen. You can't just be like, hey, you should do this, because they're not going to. You have to actually make it happen. Yeah. So that line that you're not going to do A+ work until you see it, that is a stolen line from Jay Jacobs, who I work for, who was convinced that if you hire somebody to work at your camp, you cannot just tell them what to do when they're going to do it. They have to actually see what that looks like, especially if they've never been to a camp before. So what does a good arts and crafts activity, period, look like? All right? If you've never been in one, you have no idea. Okay? So how do you make that happen? So Jay Jacobs took over North Shore Day Camp when I was there, and we were like the beef season 1. And we thought we were good at what we were doing, right? We were all super young and super, naive, right? And I remember the first thing he did, he brought in Joanna Warren Smith for a day, and she gave us this little overhaul, even just how to answer the damn phones. Everybody was answering the phone differently. Okay, and we changed it, and now and I still Liberty Lake. It's you answer the phone and you go, Liberty Lake. This is Andy. That's it. Everybody does it the same. Okay, because we're trying to professionalize ourselves. So we couldn't see it, right? And he was getting a little frustrated talking to us, and he said, you know what? This is such a Jay Jacobs move, by the way. He pulls out his wallet, okay, and there was 4 or 5 of us, and he goes, who here's been to Nordstrom's? Okay, now, I was in my mid-20s. I'd never been to Nordstrom's. I couldn't afford Nordstrom's, right? He's like, so nobody raised their hand. And he's like, okay, and he pulls out these crisp $100 bills, gives each of us 2 $100 bills, okay? And he says, I want you to go to Nordstrom's this weekend. I want you to go there. I want you to ask questions. I want you to bust their chops, okay? I want you to try things on. I want you to stay there for an hour or 2. Okay? And I want you to buy yourself something. Buy yourself a couple things. Well, Nordstrom's maybe one thing. And then we're going to come back next week and we're going to talk about it. Okay? We're like, what the hell is this lunatic thinking, right? So I go to Nordstrom's. Holy shit. It's just wow, what an experience. right? They were so unbelievably, like I had a personal shopper guy walking around with me, right?
What's it like in case you've never been to Nordstrom's?
I mean, it's just, first of all, it's beautiful. They had a piano there. It was in the men's section, it was like a sports bar. They were serving drinks, they were serving wine, where you were checking on jackets. I wanted a certain kind of shirt, and they didn't have it. You know what the guy told me? Oh, you go out into the mall, go down like halfway, there's another place that does it. Because they believe we do what we do, and we do it well. And we don't bullshit you and say that we're everything for everybody. That's what Macy's and Sears does, and JCPenney. Okay? We're freaking Nordstrom's, right? And you know, when I finished paying, they came along and they came out from around and they hand me the bag. Like, it's just this little subtle stuff that's just like super freaking cool, right? And we all came back the next week and everybody was telling stories for like an hour, you know? And it was just like, holy crap. We went to friggin' Denmark. That's what it was like for us, you know, for a bunch of like poor 27, 28, 29-year-olds. You know, that's what it was like.
So how can you get your people to Denmark? Chartering a plane, we're all gonna go. I just want to point out, $200 in whatever year, I did the calculation, Andy told me the year. Inflation adjusted, it's $371 today, just so you're, and I also want, I saw Jay in the vendor hall yesterday and I confirmed the story is true. So rest assured that actually happens. And he said it still happens to this day.
Wait.
A bunch, this is, I'm not an ACA visitor, but I know people who are. And I can verify, this is Andy's kind of endorsement here. Denmark could be another great camp that you get to go and visit. And that's kind of the secret.
Well, I have a shortcut for that also. Day camp people, okay? Go visit sleepaway camps on the weekend, okay? That's the greatest thing. At day camp, all we're trying to do is simulate sleepaway camp, let's be honest, okay? And go to a good sleepaway camp. What are you doing all weekend? Sleep until 11? You know, come on. Get in your freaking car on Friday night and go to an awesome sleepaway camp and see how they run, okay? What real camp is like, okay? Because it's freaking awesome, right? You come back totally revitalized. Bring people with you, all right? Bring people with you to see what like an evening activity is like, you know, what a bonfire is like, okay, at a sleepaway camp. It's awesome.
On the don't side of, you know, something to think about with when you're confronting C- work, and if you want to make it A+ work, not everybody's going to have it. You're not going to have a 100% satisfaction rate on the ceiling. You might not even have a 100% satisfaction rate on the floor of your expectations. So why not, you know, raise the level? So this is a different way to think. Don't assume it'll work for everybody, and don't assume that you can do it all by yourself. Carmi is not capable of teaching the pastry chef the way that, you know, the guy in Denmark was.
And a different voice. Voice.
Yes. I mean, I lived this at Elmwood Day Camp as I was like, in the camp I grew up at, I was driving a little bus, and my soon-to-be wife was our bus counselor, and she couldn't get this like 4-year-old kid to like say in the seat, let's buckle. And my mom, who was the director at the time, had to come on and be like, hey, buckle up, I'm gonna call your mom. And my wife's like, math she taught in the South Bronx, and teaching America. She's like, I've seen some stuff. And this little snotty 4-year-old just needed a different face and voice to say the same thing that for 6 weeks that we've been barking at this kid. And anyways, the voice and the medium changes as with the path. So the reference here, this link is this Blue Ocean strategy. If you don't know about Blue Ocean strategy, it's worth a Google, worth a click later. But some of the things where you might have high standards on, you might have to just eliminate or change so that you're not asking somebody to be awesome all the time at everything always. So this A+, you know, A+ is really a C-. That doesn't mean you have to be A+ everything all the time. I'm gonna leave that alone as we move on.
Wait, just one last thing.
So going back to the first slide, when it could be you too, okay? I just want to address that. Because as camp directors, we try to do everything. We try to DIY everything, okay? And for those of us that started camps, when we literally had like nickels to rub against each other and you had to do that, it's hard to grow out of that mentality also, right? And you need to look at what you do, all the different things that you try to do. And, think about, like, what are you mediocre at and what you are a master at. And the things that you're mediocre at, think about who has that strength in your organization that can do that. Or, what I've gotten to a level of now, we can farm that out to a third party, right? We have a fractional CFO at my camp. Now I have spreadsheets every single month of what my freaking business is doing. Holy crap, it took me 23 years, but now I have that. It's amazing, right? I have a part-time HR person that I pay $1,000 a month. And I talk to her once a week for an hour, and I use it for whatever I need, and it's the greatest thing ever. Because I'm not an HR professional. I think I am, because I've been hiring freaking seasonal people for 23 years, but no, I'm not. Turns out it's a profession, and people are really good at it, and they get like master's degrees at it, and they know about stuff that I have no freaking clue about, right? There's all those kinds of things, okay? We don't have to be doing C+ stuff ourselves. All right? Find people who can elevate the game.
So this is a line, I couldn't get the clip fully, and I don't want to waste, hours in film editing. But this is a quote from Richie, the guy who gets taken down by Garrett. There's a scene, I'll just describe momentarily. In front of the sandwich shop, there's a couple of gang members who are selling drugs, or like fighting over who can sell drugs in the corner, right? In the store, their customers are getting rowdy in the front, and there are two managers who respond to this. Richie, who's been used to dealing with these sorts of problems, starts rummaging through everything looking for his gun, because he's gonna walk out there, fix it with a freaking gun. He's gonna start shooting in the air and saying, hey, listen to me, you gotta get off the block. Sydney, who's we haven't really talked about, she's really the heart and soul. She's really the heart and soul of the whole show, but her response is, oh, there's these big guys hanging on the corner from a sandwich shop, creating a problem, disturbing our business. I'm gonna bring them sandwiches. And all Richie can talk about is, it's a fragile ecosystem, and he's freaking out, he's trying to force his way into managing the fragile ecosystem. And Sydney's got a whole different level of diplomacy. And the point here is that there is, you have to confront this, and really why it's a fragile ecosystem is that everybody's flawed, but remains redeemable. And the way that Sydney deals with it is really how and why to do it, right? They end up Sydney and brokers like peace talks, and they have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday sort of like trade for these rival like people it's okay for them, to be selling the drugs on the corner, just not the conflict. And so this flawed and redeemable sort of mindset about everyone on the team and in the ecosystem, think about your town officials, the board of health person that you visit that's totally quirky and one of the oddest people in your orbit, but most important. Everyone is flawed, but redeemable. These are the characters. There are Tinas, and there are people that come to camp. They get very close to getting fired. I see Paul back there. Paul, do you remember Ian Laffey? Did you ever lap with him? No. At the Berkshire Soccer Academy, we had this quirky guy who came to be an outdoor adventure instructor at a girls' soccer camp. And I had no less than 5 conversations with him where I was about to fire him. Everything that you could imagine, from saying things in front of kids to staff interactions, he was very close, but we needed the outdoor adventure guy, so he got extra redeemable points. But eventually, he turned it around and became the rock star. I know that you all have your own Ian Laffeys. This happens over and over and over again at every camp, mostly because you can't fire people during certain circumstances. But this perspective is most embodied with Tina throughout the whole show. So there's a couple of pictures, I'm not going to show the video, but at the very beginning of the show, Carmi is working really hard to shift culture. And one by one, the old guard is falling. Tina is the last one. She's the most entrenched in the old way of doing it. One of the little smudges on the forks that she was the old way, she has this apron with a picture of lipstick and it says, Mrs. Always Right. Everybody else in the kitchen, as they fall, as they join the new team, they adopt wearing these blue aprons. You can see them right there. Everybody's wearing them. One day, the culture shifts from being majority old guard to majority on board with Carmi. This is why she says, you two look like you joined a dumbass cult. Does that sound like camp or what? Yeah. I mean, so this is the perfect picture for, she's like, oh crap, I was holding the wrong line. She's thinking about it. This is a pivotal scene that gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. Sydney, who's the rock star that we mentioned, she sees that Tina's not only self-conscious about holding the wrong line, and now she's in the wrong side of the whole argument about the culture of the workforce. She's starting to slip up because she can't handle her stuff. Everybody else is actually performing at a higher level, not just on board with the message. So this is the beginning of mashed potatoes. She screws up her mashed potatoes, and because Sydney is living in a culture of high performance and trying to shift it, she starts making the second pot while Tina's about to screw up. So she lets her screw up, and then while Tina is taking the first pot that she messed up and throwing it into the dishwasher, Sydney puts that on the stove, so she's ready, doesn't even miss a beat, gets right into the second batch. And so this is her face as she's like, even though I've been a bitch, why you take care of me? She literally said, I think the clip is, why you do that? And she's looking at somebody, she's saying thank you. She's saying, thanks for not counting me out. She's saying, you're not gonna give up on me? It's amazing. It's just a beautiful thing. Additionally, that same professional redeemability and acceptance for her happens personally, because everybody senses it. She lets it slip in the first time in 20-something years of working at this place that she goes to karaoke every Wednesday night or whatever it is. And so because the crew can sense that Tina's about to fall and then the culture's gonna just go boom, and they're gonna have a team, because they never had a team, they had a band of misfits that looked like a team. This is the moment everything changes, they become a team. The crew shows up and sees and supports her singing karaoke. Look at the shock. She's the unsung hero. This plot line is the unsung plot line of the whole show. This is the moment where Sydney, that's Sydney right there. Sydney, who's been working with Carmi to make decisions and become the real leadership of the kitchen, she delivers the news that, hey Tina, we want to send you to culinary school. And for the first time now, nobody gave up on Tina. Not only was she continually dealt with, she was like the sabotaging person, now she's in, and now they're investing in her, giving her something she never would have pursued, and they've totally vision casted the future. It's totally different. And then this is towards the end of season 2. Not only is she on board, she's wearing the blue apron, she ditched her personal sort of vision, and she's out there. These are the new recruits for the kitchen, and she's the one that's passing on the culture of high performance. She's like, you can't cut it in here. Look at you. You know, but she's doing it the right way for them. How do we do that? How do we reframe and reform?
It's a couple things he was talking about. It's such a camp show, guys. You gotta watch this if you haven't. The thing about the karaoke, right, just brought me back to the Patrick Lencioni book about the 5 dysfunctions of the team. And people, if you want to have a strong team, they're gonna want to hang out with each other. They want to like each other. Okay, that is a sign of a functional team. That as soon as camp's over, they don't just go their separate ways. All right, it's super important. I remember working with Jay Frankel and him talking about when somebody's not doing that work. Like, what are they consciously incompetent? Are they making a decision that they don't want to do this because they're being lazy or they're just jerks or whatever? Or is it just lack of training? Is that what it is? Because at camp, most of the time it's lack of training. Right? Well, we told them that in orientation the week before camp started, on an 8-hour day when it was 100 degrees out, They don't freaking remember. Okay, you have to constantly be training people at camp. Strengths and weaknesses. Everybody's got strengths, everybody's got weaknesses, all of us, okay? We have to not just recognize this for ourselves, we have to figure it out on our team, especially our middle management, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. Don't try to turn a dog into a cat. It doesn't work. Can't do it, okay? You have these great potential people. You have to figure out what it is that they can be great at, all right? And then push that, right? We are not Fortune 500 companies where we have a whole friggin' wing of accounts payable and HR and all this stuff, and you're hiring just people for this one job, right? And that's a job description, and that's what you do. If you can't do it, you're fired, okay? We are hiring people that are awesome humans, and let's figure out what they can do, and we adjust the job to them, okay? And then fill in the gaps around. That's the only way we can do it, all right? Yeah, expect disruptors with everybody, no doubt about it, but disruptors make you better. That goes back to the trust thing, okay? Once you master the rules, you can bend them. They have to understand the baseline of what you're doing in here. And the listening ear, tender grace, yeah. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. There's a link to a video, I'll share it if you want, down the slide. It's like a 10-minute video. It's this writer, this psychology writer that basically did this beautiful, eloquent synopsis of the first 2 seasons. And the big difference in their leadership that he really brings up is that when the leaders step up, they do it with their ears. And so they do a lot of reframing by listening and understanding, oh, the reason why Sydney has chosen to go from the Culinary Institute of America, which is top tier education, to working at the sandwich shop is that it was her dad's favorite place when she was growing up. So she has this emotional connection to this sandwich shop. It's a dump that she is, theoretically, she could be working at Goldman, but she's at camp being a boys or girls head counselor. Are we listening for that? And so that is, and the tenderness to respond to these things when there's issues. This is, you could do lots of time spent on how to reframe and reform and prepare to do that.
Wait, you skipped the book.
You skipped the Hidden Potential book. If you're going to read a book or listen to a book between now and camp, read that book. Adam Grant's best book, by far. All right, it basically talks about what we do, which is finding the potential in kids, and then finding the potential in our staff as well. It literally just talks about like the bear kind of things.
This is a maxim, or like a phrase that I've started deploying more and more in my life with everybody I know, is that it's kind of an insult to answer no for people. It's a bit of a reach, and so giving people the chance to step up and not answering no from like, they probably, Sydney and Carmi probably had a conversation like, Tina's never gonna go to culinary, she's never gonna change. She'll never wanna do that. She'll never wanna go to culinary school in the morning after she's been here till 1 o'clock. It's never gonna happen. And so they didn't give up. This is, we've all probably heard the phrase, right person, right seat, right bus. And you're never gonna get it right on the first time for everybody. But Ian Laffey needed to step up in a weird ways to not get fired at Berkshire Soccer. This is kind of a loaded statement about the reptilian response to your reptilian brain when you start to get this fight or flight response to don't do the Richie and grab your gun to solve what you could fix with a pastry or leftover sandwich. And that's part of not giving up on them. Not that flawed but redeemable never ends, and I would encourage you to even have like, how do you communicate flawed but redeemable at camp? Like, how do you communicate, yeah, that guy's not showing up, but we're gonna keep at him. You gotta have language for that to help people do it.
And to me, the flawed or redeemable thing, think about that pain in the ass kid that you have your camp, that you struggled with for 3 or 4 years. How many of those kids have become your best counselor? Right? Because you believed in them, right? And you changed their life. Oh, okay. All right, so how much time we got, Eric?
9 minutes.
9 minutes. All right, here we go. Freezer lock, okay, last season, the last episode, he gets locked in the freezer. What happens? Everybody steps up, okay? I don't know how many people read Bill Simmons. He talks about the Ewing theory, Okay, best player on the team gets injured. Everybody sort of gives up hope. No. Everybody steps up. Don't lose hope.
That's like, we dropped that in favor of the earlier references for the A+ work is really a C-. Oftentimes, when people step up, it's because something happened. The chef is locked in the freezer accidentally, which we all know. It's really hard to lock yourself in a walk-in. Let's be honest. If you could do it, we'd all pretend to do it a little bit. But maybe you need to create artificial freezer lock. Like take a day off. Get a lunch off. Hide for an hour in the freezer. Pretend to get locked in the freezer. Maybe it's not you, but artificially creating freezer lock, I love that it got dropped because of parental omission. This why are we here? This is each individual's vision must align with the grand vision, even if not asked. So there's a clip that didn't make it of Sydney's this like on paper rock star chef. She's got CIA training, Culinary Institute Academy. She walks in to this hole in the wall restaurant, hands this, top tier chef her resume, and Carmi says to her, "Okay, great, yeah, you're good. Why are you here?" And so this is where she says, "This is my dad's favorite restaurant. We used to come here all the time. It's an emotional connection." But the hidden kind of secret in that scene is he accepts her and says, "Okay, come by tomorrow to try it out." And she's about to walk away, but she looks perturbed. She's got this sort of like, can I ask him a question right now, or is it too soon in the interview process? And Carmi says to her, he's curious. He says, "What's up?" And she turns around and says, you were the best chef in the country at the best restaurant. Basically, you could be a lawyer, or you could do whatever, every camp director, it could be something else somewhere else. And she says, "Why are you here?" And so, consider that your people might be wondering, why are you here? And how does it line up with why are they here? So these visions kind of fitting together is definitely worth exploring. Every second counts.
Yeah, we're gonna go over, dude. That's just the way it is. You came here to the hangover session at 9 in the morning, right? We're gonna go a little bit over. That's what it is. Thank you all for coming. Every second counts is a huge part of this. It permeates to both seasons, right? And we need to take advantage of every moment, right? Telling your staff to be in the moment. That's what this means to me. Okay, it's so easy to space out. All right, at day camps where it's just like camp concentrate, and we really just don't have much time for that. Right? We don't have shower hour and rest hour and all this crap you guys got at your resident camps. Every second counts. We are running a restaurant. Okay, transportation, assemblies, changing for swim, all that kind of thing. Every second counts, right? And it's a hard thing to put forth without stressing out your people. That's, to me, the magic. How do you make that happen without making them feel like they're under the gun, right?
Get great at running notes, intel as well. If anybody's worked at a restaurant that did this, I would love to hear more about it. But when they finally deploy all the things that Carmi had envisioned for a highly efficient, really incredible experience, and they're emulating the experience at higher level restaurants where they're passing notes. The server's noticing R, Rutgers. I'll put that on a note. And we're gonna bring a special, red velvet cake cut out in the shape of an R for this person. And it just happens without words. Now, you might do that inside of your camp registration software when you're doing sales, camper recruitment. And you might make a seasonal note somewhere, but do you actually pass it, and how do you get it? This is something most of you have probably had experience with or trying to do, but how does it happen in the summer? You can think about a million ways where running notes could change the experience dramatically, and you could bring that level of performance wherever you want it.
And if anybody was at my day camp roundtable session, we talked about the random acts of ice cream, where this camp is taking notes on the staff. Okay, again, this is not just about the kids, right? It's about the staff And how do you make them feel good? And how do you reward them? How do you show appreciation to them? Okay, know stuff about them. They are not just a bunch of robots running around. They are humans with feelings and likes and dislikes, and they are doing the hardest job in the freaking world for you, okay, and your camp. So we should know stuff about them. Take notes on them too, if we're mental or in a spreadsheet.
I'm also the next person in this room presenting, so we're not going to go over.
Oh, great.
Be ready to move on from Forks. We're not going to camp into each of these, but there's a moment where after Richie's been dressed down by Garrett and he's responding, recovering, he's kind of doing Forks the right way for some time. He's in it, he's bought in, he put on the blue apron like Tina. And then there's a moment where Garrett kicks in the door and he's like, "You ready? Get your suit jacket on." And he gets the call up from the minor leagues to the big leagues, and now he gets to go get out of the back of the kitchen and gets to interface and deal with customers, clients, the line shot. He's in the game. So,
and we do this all the time at our camps. We get these people, right, and we're working on them, and then all of a sudden the moment it comes where they have to step up, right? Somebody quits, gets fired, gets hurt, whatever, and they have to all of a sudden move up to that next level. And you see that look on their face, how they're like, yes, embrace the moment. I'm going to show everybody how awesome I am. That's what that means to me.
If anybody's ever a football fan, Nick Saban has a whole kind of philosophy around being the one. Like, are you be the one that's ready to step up and do the one thing? The problem hunting. So, Carmi inherits tons of things, including problems that he doesn't know to look for. There's a whole mindset around hunting for problems and not waiting for them to just show up. Let's skip over that one. The secrets to coping stress. One of the first things that they do in season 1, Carmi and Sydney develop, they bring it from somewhere else, which is clutch. They bring in a symbol for like, I respect you, yes chef, but right now I need some space and you need to get off my case. And so they have this like, it's like they basically rub their heart and be like, yo, chill out. And it's a really important way to decompress a moment where maybe you're dealing with a problem in front of a parent where it's like, you screwed up there, Buck. Jack came here, I brought this friend. And it's like, oh my gosh, I need help. You might need to fix it. So that was an incredible sort of example. Let me keep going. Mm-hmm. Prayers or predators. There are people that might be praying for you, and then if you mess up, they might prey on you. There's an uncle that gives them a loan in the show. There's just lots of people in your camp orbit that you want to make sure you stay in close contact with them so they continue to stay on your side. You can imagine all these people from the bank to the board, the health inspector to anybody.
And my point with this is that you need to forge relationships with these people because the shit is going to hit the fan at some point. And when it does, you don't want to be having your first serious conversation with them at that point. You want to have relationships so that you can pick up the phone, okay? Many of us went through this during the pandemic, okay? And those of us with the Dime Bank are eternally grateful for our relationships there. But it's not just the bank, it's the township officials, it's the construction officials, it's a fire marshal, it's all these people. Okay, if you have to bring them sandwiches, bring freaking sandwiches. Talk about their families with them. Get to know them. Let the fire department have a free picnic at your place. Do these kind of things. Take initiative on this. Again, you don't want to be calling them up after they fail you for not having enough fire extinguishers and you say you can't open camp on Monday. Okay, you don't want that to happen. And they won't do that to you if they know you and respect you and know that you're trying to do the best things, that you really care, that you're part of the community, you're not just this parasite that's just sucking from, the teat of the town and just grabbing everybody's money, right?
Yes, chef. The last one here is to lead us to serve. Richie, I mean, they each have their own plot lines for the first couple seasons, but Richie goes from, basically a false prophet saying this is the way you got to do it. This is the way we've always been doing it. If you ever heard that line before at a camp, to being a true servant leader and just like pouring out, doing whatever he can for the team. I'm gonna make a little plug here for if and when you download the slides. This is that 7 or 8 minute video all about a better synopsis than we can do or show. This QR code will take you to the slides, and that QR code will take you to the app for feedback. Please go on there and drop us a nice line. It's Prittenberg, AKA Prittenberg. I'm just kidding. But any and all feedback is appreciated. So thank you very much.